Hey everyone, how's everybody doing today? So let me start off by saying there is like a hum from the AC in the background that was just going to be there indefinitely. Um, it's very, very hot in Western New York today. So today is oh no, I didn't mute myself. Okay. Hi Istebrak. So let me start off by looking at your submission. So today's critique hour is going to be about your character design submissions, and you guys have had some amazing stuff. So let's actually go through them all. So I love what I'm seeing with the design boards, with what you guys have picked up for references. This is some amazing stuff. Exactly what I wanted to see for the silhouettes. Unfortunately, some of you have wonderful silhouettes, but you guys don't take that into your final pieces. So a lot of the time when you're working, you have to just go for something that even though you don't feel it, and even though you don't feel like working with that kind of gesture, you still have to choose it and work with it. So sometimes you guys, and I'll talk about this, didn't choose the best silhouette in there. Maybe because you didn't, you felt like you were, drawn more to one, but it has to be a gesture that invites the viewer, that keeps the viewer in like a kind of like in communication. So right here, this one I wouldn't say is the best. I wouldn't say is the best representation for the character design that we were doing. So I guess to introduce it a little bit, the character design was based off a, what is it called again? I'm just going to look for where the design prompt is. The design prompt is mage/archaeologist. Very, very open. No specifics, no gender specific design, no age specific design, just a mage/archaeologist. So they are kind of equipped with magic, and their task is to discover ancient relics, to be very, very sporty. It's not very glamorous job. And they have a lot of climbing to do. They have a lot of walking to do. They're very weathered. They're very out in the elements. So you have all of these components that I'm expecting out of these designs. So when we go back to this piece right here, I wouldn't say this feels more like a sorceress or witch pose. It doesn't feel like someone who does a lot of walking. The costume, absolutely, but does the gesture feel like it reflects that? So one big component of character design is the gesture, the costume, and the portrait. Costume also includes hairstyle, by the way. All of them have to reflect the same task. You can't have a girly pose that looks more like Sailor Moon than and a very, very nicely tattered shirt and like prepared clothes for the weather, for all types of weather, and kind of a really, really fierce expression. So the costume and the expression are wonderful. The hair seems great and out of the way. Not too glamorous or long or something that you would need a handmaiden to take care of. The hand is very small, by the way, speaking of handmaidens. But yeah, the pose was not really keeping up. So let's take a look at the other poses that you had here that you could have used. This one seems like a wonderful pose, except I would put one hand out to show some kind of magical element that she's using. It doesn't always have to be them being the element. The carrier of the magic. It could be an item. It could be something a little bit more far-fetched. So a mage could be using a magical item that is separate from themselves, that has the magic in it, like a weapon or some kind of, not sci-fi, but similar to. So this is a wonderful pose. This one is great because she's actually active. She's moving around. The body is exposed to the camera, so we can get a lot of the character design exposure out, so we can actually get the character. This one is good, but again, it feels like she's suspended or floating, like she's flying like an X-Men, with magic. These two, again, doesn't really feel like an archaeologist. If she can fly, then it's a very, very easy job. So it's not so much an archaeologist that is on foot. So I didn't write kind of like a collector. I didn't write a collector, because a collector can be a sorceress who can float around looking for things and putting them in her little satchel. I said archaeologist, so covered in sand, dirty, on site, very, very knowledgeable, so not necessarily the most athletic body, but athletic enough that gets them from where they need to go, long distance walking. So this one and this one looks great as well, but it's just 2 side view for me. I like something a little bit in between the 3/4 view, so I think this one is the best. If this hand here, if she wasn't necessarily looking up at something, but if this hand here had some kind of magical component, and you could have always chosen the design that is magical to be a part of the archaeology that they do. It could have been a magical staff. It could have been a magical rope. It could have been something that helps them see through dust and sand, so some kind of scanner. Anything like that to really keep everything in unison, keep everything in uniformly representing the same theme. So the reason why I deliberately kept the design brief and the kind of the kickoff so general is that I wanted you guys to have a lot of chances to make mistakes like this. If I had decided all of this for you, if I had like the similar character design that we did in the public community not long ago, the ancient weapon, that was all decided for you. The gender was decided, the culture was decided, the story was written out completely, passage, narrative. I wrote it myself. Everything was decided. But challenges like these are difficult because you have to be the one who does the writing. And when you are doing character design and you are writing at the same time, your creative writing skills are tested. And though some of these designs are fun, some of them don't really make sense. So this one is wonderful. I really, really love seeing this one. The one that didn't make sense to me, let me just try to find it here. Some of these didn't, it feels like you guys just, instead of finding a general way of designing the fashion, you guys just got an element from one archaeologist and one other costume from a mage and just merged the two together. When we're talking about a mage that's from a world where archaeologists can exist and mages can exist, it's not necessarily the 1920s Victorian archaeology costume. It's not necessary that he has this hat if he's from a world who also has this robe. So it's wonderful colors. I'm not sure about the background block here, which is kind of in the way. I like that what you did with the design, and I love the vials here, but is he a chemist? Is he a potion master? What does he need the vials for? Does he drink them? Why are they always out there ready to, like a utility belt, quick access? What component, how have you unified these with anywhere else in the paint? Is he a potion seller? So I don't think that the potions had any role to play in this design particularly, and I don't think the hat is a good idea. You can have a hat, but don't make it the 1920s kind of Victorian imperialism hat from Egypt, all that stuff. I think that's a little bit overdone and a little bit cliche, but the magical component, how he lifts rocks, is perfect. I like what he's wearing, though remember, he is traveling a lot, so he doesn't seem like he's ready for the road. He seems like he has dress pants on, so I would adjust the pants there. I'd make them a little bit more, wherever he's going, he seems like he's lifting up very, very sandy looking rocks, so he's probably in a hot climate. So a robe like that wouldn't really make sense. So right now, your weakness particularly, Tia, is that you are not really thinking intuitively with your costume design. Your costume design, though it is a very deliberate way of unifying mage with archaeologist, it's very unintuitive. It needs a little bit more thinking. So he could be wearing robes. He could be wearing something in the school that he studied in. Maybe he got used to wearing the uniform they have. So that's one way to link back a character to their scholarly history, is to make them wear a uniform of some kind that's very regal and shows that they have knowledge. So that's one really wonderful design tool. But as for a full-on thick robe and sandy rocks, doesn't make much sense. I love the book. I love how the book has some of the color elements in the potions he has, but it's just the yellow. The blue seems to be doing its own thing. He has this other weapon that I can't really make out. Is it like that thing that breaks rocks? I forget what it's called. To think back to my Minecraft days. So that one didn't make much sense to me. And then there was this one with the shovel. It seems like you drew over, for this one, it seems like you drew over a photograph. Even your designs here, your tests, it seems like you were drawing over a photograph of some kind. This is because of the rotation there. It seems a bit accurate. And then the drawing of the laugh line. So be very careful. Don't work too closely with photographs like this. I really like where you're going with this top one here. She definitely feels like, yeah, I'm looking like an archaeologist. I'm looking at an adventurer. I love the design here. This one feels like more of a ranger, and then the shovel really isn't doing much. Is that the magical component? And is she doing the shoveling herself? Does she work with a team? Is she alone? So really the best, let's say that you were all in charge of designing one mage/archaeologist for a movie. All of you were working on the same guy. Let's say you were all in the same studio. What would, oh, is a scepter? Oh, okay. A pickaxe. There you go. Thank you. And I was the director, I would choose whoever was designing something that rearranges rocks. So we have mage. Magic is a way to meet our requirements with very little effort, meet our desires, complete tasks, all of that stuff very, very quickly and efficiently. So how would a mage benefit from magic? It's not a magical shovel. I would say that again is another forced kind of unintuitive attempt to combine the two elements. I would say something where the magic, maybe the what I would have done is the archaeologist can summon a golem or some kind of large rock moving creature, and he has some kind of magic, some kind of inscription or runic or something to help him locate hidden treasure or hidden relics or something like that. Maybe this particular mage is only interested in finding one kind of specific relic, or maybe a shard of something, or maybe components of one larger piece. So maybe he already has found some stuff. So I don't see much of the designs catering to the story in that maybe he has found some stuff. So back to the costume. The costume in this case, I like the golem actually. I really think that's adorable. But he feels more like an instantly, and everyone I'm sure feels this, a Sherlock Holmes type character. He seems like an academic. He doesn't seem like an adventurer. He seems like a head boss. He's not the guy who does the footwork. He's definitely not on site, and if he's on site, he's in the big tent with the wine and the butlers. He's not really the, he doesn't feel like he's been touched by a grain of sand. And that's not good, especially if we said archaeologist. I didn't say, Monopoly guy. I didn't say, kingpin or something like that. I said archaeologist, and that means that it's someone who works with their hands. He doesn't look like he's working with their hands. How do you make it look like someone's working with their hands? Dress their hands with the tools necessary. So grips, gloves, bandages, something to show that the hands have had some kind of experience. Yeah, like he owns the site, exactly. So this design here kind of falls off a great deal. His position, his stance is way too proud, way too academic, way too posh, way too London. It doesn't feel like he is an archaeologist at all. So for complete miss on the gesture and the costume. The face as well, very, very posh, very happy. So of course you can still use this in your portfolio. You can still benefit from this completed painting, but you have to start learning how to work with a brief such as this one. The most dangerous kind of brief, and please remember this, is the general one, which is what I gave you guys. That one is the most difficult to work with because you have to answer all the questions yourself. If I said archaeologist, you have to know what archaeologist means. You can't pitch this kind of thing if you're working in a studio or something like that. So I'm going to try to work from the top down. All right, this one, okay, so this definitely feels like she's on her feet, but you've used some components that make her feel like either she's a princess, a nun, or some kind of like wife of an archaeologist that has more magic in her than the man with her. Do you know what I'm saying? So what she's floating like, what she's looks like. She's very, very elegant, very magical, very princess-like. But she's got her little tool bus. So if I get rid of the tool thing, so this is how you know costume is weak and costume isn't going to hold up. If you get rid of the one thing that's making her read as an archaeologist, she should still read as an archaeologist, is what I'm trying to say. It should still read like she is still an archaeologist, whether or not she has her tools. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's the little satchel, the little belt piece here that bothers me. It's the only thing keeping her connected to the theme of archaeologist. The headdress, what is she doing with it? I'm sorry, I had to clap. What is she doing with a headdress if she's out in the heat, in the elements? Who has time to put on a headdress every day? Unless, and this is the key narrative term, this is the key storytelling quality, unless it is for religious purposes. And if someone is observing their religion so carefully they put on this headdress every day, what are they doing being an archaeologist? Are they not a nun? Which is why I read as a nun. Okay, so she seems like more like a magical healer nun. And the apron makes her feel like she works in the kitchens of the nunnery with a bunch of other magical nuns. And this headdress is a way for people to recognize them as, untouchable. They work in the temple in the high gardens of the mountains or whatever. And this little thing right here, she seems like she has some, small gardening tools. This does not read as an archaeologist, an independent thinker. An archaeologist is an academic with their hands dirty. So this is someone who is adventurous, who asks questions, who isn't afraid, who has a lot of courage to travel in the dark, courage to walk long distances, the strength to walk long distances. So please remember that your costume and the pose and the expression all have to match. All right. So that's it, though. Those are the 3 terms. Make sure you write those down. That's what makes a character design successful. This one right here is wonderful work. It's spot on. Just hit the nail on the head. The gesture, the costume, the equipment that you have, and the magic are all just wonderful. I like how if you're in your female version, her hair was tied back and out of the way, very sporty. Knee pads for crawling into spaces, for standing, like kind of crouching down, examining some soil or some rock structures. The weapon itself isn't necessarily a part of them, but you've united it with the character by having a necklace to combine the two. This is a character design that works exactly the way I wanted it to. So wonderful work. I love seeing this stuff. So some initial coloring and draw the rest of the fucking I don't know what you wrote. Fuck out. I don't know what you wrote. But this is exactly what I like to see. This is really one of the more successful ones today. Some of you kind of went a little bit far, but you still kept close. Your costumes still match. Some of you went a little bit cute, and I'll talk about those amazing ones later. But this is just if we were to have a template of the ideal response to the pitch of the character design, this is exactly what it is supposed to be. So now that we can see that your issue isn't necessarily with design, let's talk about the form. I feel like his face is perfect. His character is perfect. He feels like he takes shit from no one. But I feel like from the cheekbone down to the neck, there isn't much value change. So you have a lot of jumping values here and there, but when it comes to the skin, things kind of just seem a little milky. So just around the neckline, maybe a sharper shadow beneath the neck. And the jawline. Oh, shit. Sorry. And the jawline. A little bit more just shadow around the eyes, some more detail around the eyes. You are working with a distance. Maybe some edge work around the upper lip and the cheekbone. Just something like that might help. I love the belts. I love that he's ready to kind of equip himself with whatever it is that he's found. It's hard to, maybe he did find a relic just right there. Whatever I'm looking at, I'm loving it. Okay? Okay, so let's move on to this one. So this one, he does, costume is good, but I'm really not sure what's happening. He seems like an archaeologist that was possessed because he found, am I reading this right? Because he found a relic that he wasn't supposed to touch. maybe I'm not reading this right. Maybe you just did this just as you did it. But you know, maybe this is the relic. Maybe this is the archaeologist. Is how he is day to day. But he seems like he was possessed by a relic he should not have picked up, and that's not good. I love the boots. I love the costume. I love the character. I don't feel like the face paint makes any sense. If he's wearing Western clothes and he's studying abroad and he's looking at sites in a very, very tribal location, maybe deep in the jungle, he doesn't seem like he'd be wearing their stuff just yet. I don't think he'd be wearing the face paint involved. Also, you have to, if you're going to be making your character in a whole new environment, this is why casting is so important. We've talked a lot about casting already. Casting your character when you're working with expression, you cast the actor to the role. I would not cast an actor that looks like the people he's supposed to be a stranger in. So if I'm going to be making a character, an archaeologist who's from some country, any country, I would want him to be an archaeologist that looks nothing like the people in the area. So let's say it's an Arab archaeologist. I would make him go to a Native American kind of tribal location like that, or somewhere deep in the Mexican jungle, if that makes sense, or Mexican site or something like that. I'd want the archaeologist to look nothing like the people that he's involved with. So here you have a reference of the kind of people I believe that are linked to this kind of artwork, and it feels like he's one of them, but he wore the costume or the clothes of the archaeologist who he killed and is now wearing his clothes. It feels very zombie-like. The pose is a very, very bad pose. It's very fashion-y, and fashion kind of just has no soul. So that's why he's standing this way. Not a good reference to use, and does not feel like an archaeologist. Feels like a tribal character who's stolen the clothes of the archaeologist, or it feels like the archaeologist is possessed. Okay, so got that. I don't think you're... Oh, yeah, you were done. Okay, let's move down. I really like these poses here. Again, I feel like you kind of drew over these. I think this is Senshi stock, if I'm not mistaken. Don't draw over, because you're just going to cheat yourself out of the educational experience. Don't draw over your references. So we talked about this one. Let's talk about this one, Kira's. Really, really cute. I love what I'm looking at. You got rid of the lines and you had nothing left. So a line is a representative of an edge, and that means that in order for us to have read a bit more, from this to this, all you added were darker shades. What we need are pockets of shadow. So there should have been some more pockets of shadow under the neckline. More detail around the dark spots of the eyes. So you got rid of the lines, but it doesn't mean you get rid of the read. You have to have some shadow there. I love the gesture. Very, very fun. Very exciting. But I wouldn't make her bag so big that we lose her waistline and her arms. Because right over here in your silhouettes, we don't really see the arms, and though it is very nice to have the backpack there, from a distance it felt like this was the head and these were the ears and these were the legs. The shovel is good in this case because you have other weapons, not just the shovel. So you have a little chisel, pickaxe, there you go. You have some extra little ornaments, you have a book, you have some other tools and some kind of roll-up of some other tools as well. The magic seems to be stemming from the shovel, but in this case it's a silly little drawing, which makes sense. A magical shovel seems like a funny little addition. Before, the magical shovel was attached to a very realistic looking character, which is why it didn't match. So that's why it felt unintuitive. When you go in the cartoony direction, you can make Shovel Knight, for instance, is ridiculous, but you get away with it because it's very cartoony and pixel art and under-rendered. You have to be able to take it by ear when it comes to jokes like this, a magical shovel. Is she going to be digging fast? How does she find them? She must have like some kind of codex or knowledge, geological knowledge of landscapes and stuff like that. that help her locate these areas so that she can dig as fast as she does. So very, very little contrast where we need it to read the character. Feels like simple cell shades without the lines. If you have to include the lines, just throw them back in there, so that we can get a better rendition of the face. But I love how you responded to your mood board. This is the kind of stuff I want to see. You guys are doing amazing work. I'm really very, very proud of you. I'd like to see some more independent stuff like this posted into the community critique channel. So outside of the obviously you guys are here to do some homework, but outside of the homework, I'd love to see you guys try some of this stuff on your own. Some of you have a real knack for character design, and a simple like mage archaeologist is an easy combo. So find a way to kind of combine two major components together and see what comes out in your blueprinting. But you know, this shouldn't be the only character design in your gallery like this. The way to really capture your audience is to have 10 in this style or more. Have a style that someone can trust you can repeat, not an accidental style or situational style. And by style, I'm speaking very, very carefully. Okay, let's move on to this one. So she seems very, I mean, if she was a city-based archaeologist in a very, very futuristic neon retro wave world, I'd understand. She seems like she's a girl who is like the sidekick of a bad guy. She doesn't really get her hands dirty, but she can. She is like a centerpiece or his toy or something like that. Feels like a stripper because she's standing like one. That's the only reason why. And what she's wearing, the fishnet stockings and the excessive jewelry. Remember what I said about jewelry? Whenever you have jewelry, jewelry needs grooming, okay? So jewelry equals groomed character. Write that back. So a groomed character, is that really someone who goes around stealing relics they're not supposed to be stealing, and capturing stuff and looking for stuff in deep, dark places? I like the magic. I like her athletic pose. But the jacket and what's happening with the hair, all that feels like it's in the way. If she had no jacket, let's say she had no jacket, her hair was tied up and out of the way, she didn't have on any excessive jewelry, at least not the body chain, she would read like an archaeologist. She definitely would. If she had a couple more tools, she had a bag, she had maybe some kind of magical component that unites her with the magic she's holding, then at that point I would believe it. But she feels like she's going to the club. It really doesn't feel like an archaeologist because of the costume. However, it was the costume here. So remember, it's three-parter: costume, gesture, and expression. So gesture, on point. It's really great. Costume, really, really bad. I'm sorry for that noise. I've been trying to perfect that noise. I really feel like that I would benefit from that noise in my classes. Maybe I should get like a button that has that instead of trying to make the noise myself. But yeah, costume, just flop, complete drop. Get rid of it. Get rid of the jacket. Get rid of the fishnet stockings, or fishnet, whatever they are. Body tank top. Get rid of the body chains. Get rid of this oversized earrings. Maybe keep the earrings if they were a bit smaller. Maybe her granddad gave them to her. I don't know. And tie up her hair. It'll be a complete image. And some more tools, some real tools, not a fanny pack. I want to see some tools that she can access quickly. Maybe they can be magical tools. It doesn't always have to be an archaeologist. And if you're saying, oh, everybody's using, archaeological tools, well, it's an archaeologist. Absolutely. You guys are supposed to be designing an archaeologist. Typically, archaeologists all look the same. They're very, very dirty. They have very dirty shorts on. They have really pit-stained tank tops. They're in the middle of nowhere trying to make history. They're not really concerned with their body chains. They have no time to put that stuff on. Okay? So let's look at the other completed piece. So this is Pavel. So I really like what's going on here. The hair feels like it's in the way, but you kind of get away with it because it's got a very cartoony touch to it. I like her costume, and I believe you also unified the magic with the rocks. So if I'm not mistaken, these are rocks that she's moving around. She's got the maps, the charts, the tools, the book, the glasses. The body type is on point, not too overweight, not too athletic. More tools, and then the lab coat, wonderful work. I love what I'm looking at. I love the skin tone as well, how you managed to pull that off. Very, very nice touch. And the boots, everything's just working so perfectly. Only thing would be just a large hair. Big hair is like big hairspray hair. It's hair that we use for characters that we're showing as either upper class or excessively beautiful, like a nuclear family mom hair. Do you know what I mean? Big old hair. You want to be careful with that. You can still have the same attitude and cuteness to her, but this little, dropping the hair down just a touch, just from this point down and this point down, will really help make her feel like she doesn't have time to volume her hair. Okay? Also, you have large circle, large circle, large circle. She's starting to look like a snowman. So nice little setup here to complete her silhouette of her bust, of her neckline. It will help kind of generate that beauty back, bring that beauty back. Her magic seems to be linked to the little tool here. I love how that magic, again, is tied back to the character. I love seeing that. It's just a little bit goes a long way with that kind of stuff. The fanny packs come back. And I'd love to take a look at this mood board as well. Really, really great work. When you have something like this, you won't run out of ideas because you'll always have this to look back on. When you feel like you've hit a point where you have no idea how to unify this part of the costume with another part, you look back to your mood board and you chose these things for a reason, and you can borrow. There's no such thing as a costume that belongs to one artist. You can copy, just like you can copy framework and cinema angles and lighting shamelessly. You can copy costumes as well. Nobody owns a V-neck. Nobody owns a cargo pants. So if whatever you find, you like it, take from it. So we talked about this one. This one's great. I couldn't finish. It's okay, Tisha. So I like what I'm seeing here. The head feels a little bit small. I like the outfit. This is starting to look like the female, oh, sorry about that. Stupid windows. This is starting to look like the female antagonist from, what's it called again? Damn it, what's it called? I forgot what it's called. Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones' Quest for the Crystal Skull, or something like that. Yeah, it looks like a duplicate of that design, which is okay. Haircut though, body looks very like, very Nazi-like costume, similar to the character from the movie. She doesn't seem like she gets her hands dirty. She seems like she's the commander. She seems like she's in charge. She seems like she's not really the one who goes and digs or uses the brush to delicately excavate a artifact or two, or a fossil. She seems like she's the one who tells someone very rudely to go do that. So I would start with adding some tools. I would start with less strength in her pose, something more, more academic, crouching forward, leaning forward. All in all, these are wonderful designs. Do you guys have any questions, by the way? These are wonderful designs because you guys really managed to think about what this, some of the successful ones really managed to think about what this character is going to be doing, what their task is going to be, what do they need. You've got to dress up your characters like they're going to school. What do they need? You're their parent. What are you going to get them? So they'll need all their tools. How about the pose? How does the pose express their personality? So the expression does a lot. The pose here is just a bit stiff. So I would say the costume and the character look wonderful. The pose is just a bit boring, but it is character design. So I wouldn't say the pose is the leading design component in character design, but it is still a way to show the director or whoever you're working for or whoever commissioned you that a lot of their personality is in the way they stand. So if this is going to be a 3D model, if it's going to be in game, how is their walk cycle going to look? She's not going to walk like an Evelyn from League of Legends. She'll walk more nerdy, more quickly, more assertively. more, crouched forward with her upper body, but straight, strong legs moving forward, crouch forward at her book. Maybe she'll do more of an athletic kind of taekwondo magic application process. So maybe her magic is more kung fu-y or martial arts. If it's a bit more mystical, then maybe she'll stand, maybe she'll float for a moment. But I have to read that her motion is in there, that you've thought about the way she walks. She seems a bit stiff, a bit robotic. I would never ever dress any characters, make them stand like this. I would try to do something to them, maybe lean them on one side of the hip to show an attitude problem. Anything really so that the character feels like they are about to move, or that the artist has thought about the way they move. While they were working on them. Would you be able to look at the Archaeomancer card Carson mentioned? Archaeomancer card Carson. I thought I was reading like a name, Card Carson. Images. Archaeomancer. Oh, there we go. It looks good. I think they're wearing a monk setup. So if they're religiously mancer archaeologist, then that makes sense why they're wearing the religious garb. But all their equipment is intact. It is pin up, so it would explain why the breasts are so highlighted. Gloves are there. The pose is obviously interactive, so it's not really looking forward. I'm not sure what's on the hand. But yeah, it looks like great. My question would be the monk costume component here. I'm not familiar with. Is it Magic the Gathering? Yeah, it is. I'm not familiar with the storyline behind Magic the Gathering. If their magic comes from the church or something like that, but it's a very churchy thing to wear and put on your character. I like a friar. So let me show you what I mean. See that? It just feels very, very religious and deliberate. So I'm not sure what they were going for with that. I think they would have done a lot better with like a French braid in the back, like some kind of hood or mask or half mask. Half mask feels more like a rogue or some kind, but a scarf, something really to utility. When you think archaeologist, you think utility, and utility means practical use of what they're doing. That friar costume didn't feel practical. Felt like it was a religious thing. They really felt like they can't take it off. To take it off is to blaspheme, kind of deal. If you aren't given info in the specifics, should you fall back on trope stereotypes to be on the safe side? Absolutely. So that's what we're doing. So the character being an archaeologist has to automatically be a nerd. I mean, there's a lot of studying involved. The character being an archaeologist means they have some level of fitness to them, but not necessarily an Achilles. So yes, you definitely have to fall back on your tropes. Whenever you're working without reference, just based off last month's class, you have to work with tropes. You have to base all your designs on the tropes. If you're not working with a lot of reference, or you're working with too much reference, you're not sure where to start or what to do. Okay, so more gesture. Yeah, definitely. I avoided hoods almost every hour. I was defaulting to it when the mage aspect started to come in. So mage doesn't necessarily mean a religious mage. It's a mage, just a character of magic. So if you wanted it to be religious magic, that makes a lot of sense. But religious magic is very academic and strict, and that means they have uniforms they can't take off. So maybe the character we just saw, the Archmage or the Archaeomancer, belonged to a church, and that was the archaeologist for that church. That makes a lot of sense. But if it's an independent wanderer, it wouldn't really make much sense for them to carry around the flag for a religion they no longer practice. I was going towards a thief too when I realized I lost the identity and started over. Yeah, I understand. How much do colors play in on the read of the character? Can using specific colors make the character read more as a specific thing? It's such a small component that if I were to say yes, a student would think that is a valid movement forward. Color is nothing. Color is, it sits on top. Color is the foam on your latte. If they gave you water and put some foam on top, is that a latte? No, it's not. Or whipped cream. Sorry, whipped cream. So it makes no sense. Color is the whipped cream on top and the shaved chocolate. It's not the actual ingredient. It's not the real thing. So yes, she can't have vibrant purple colors because why did her colors stay such a perfect color while she's traveling? So that's practical use. Yes, she would be wearing very, very sandy, weathered clothing. Maybe she could be wearing light white clothing in areas of high heat, where the climate is really, really humid or really, really hot. Areas where the climate is very wet, shorter pants, longer boots, a long jacket, a hat or a hood. Areas of very, very cold climate, obviously lots of furs, lots of pelts, lots of jackets, hood, Eskimo hood or something like that, gloves, boots, knee pads, anything that you need. And that means that the colors vary each time, but most of the time, the rule of character design and costume design and fashion design for character design is the more vibrant, the more royal. Just like in the everydays. So nowadays, you don't have to be a king to wear really, really bright reds, which is why students think they can just use any color they want on characters. It's not like that. A character that is supposed to be regal, majestic, magical, floating in the air, eyes glowing, descendant of a goddess or something, can have pretty vibrant, beautiful colors, can wear white, very pure color, like basically the dress that Zelda wore in Breath of the Wild, gold and white. Very, very, she's not dressed for the occasion. She's not dressed for all the fighting upcoming. When you're dealing with a character that is just an everyday layman, or a character that is supposed to be dirty all the time, you're not really going to dress them in these superiorly saturated colors. Maybe they can have one aspect to them that's saturated. Maybe desaturate them so the magic has more of a quality to it when it is activated. Maybe they have a really important piece of jewelry that they lose that has emotional or sentimental value. You can exaggerate that with saturation, because though I say there are 3 ways to detail: shrinking your brush, edge work, and contrast, saturation is the last one, and I don't talk about that one because we work in grayscale. But saturation is a way to create detail and focus. So, you're not going to give them red Wellingtons, but you can give them red lipstick if it's a particularly girly archaeologist. But yeah, any more questions at all? Good question about colors, Finnegan. Would be more of a cleric then. Yeah, makes sense. Exactly. A religious, yeah, exactly. Makes more sense. When doing standalone character design, I see lots of people on ArtStation doing really neutral poses. When do you want to use lots of gesture versus a more neutral pose? Lots of gesture, dynamic, interactive gesture with environment is flat out illustration. Either you finish the environment or not. It makes no sense to have a character crouching down looking at a rock with a grayscale background behind him. It makes more sense to have, the full-on cavern or whatever is behind them while they're examining the rock, which is what they did in that illustration we just looked at, the archaeomancer. But when you're doing a standing character design with a neutral pose, I recommend adding some kind of topical gesture, and that happens in this way. So write that down. It's the spine. The spine, though, it can be standing forward looking at the camera. The spine can have a bit of an attitude. The spine can crouch forward. The spine can be straight, showing a proud chest for like a knight or a king. The spine can be asymmetrical with a younger girl that has an attitude, or a younger boy, kind of like a misfit. The hands could one hand can be on the hip, if applicable. One hand can be leaning on the side. Both hands can be kind of like praying mantis style in front of the character. If they're crouching forward and are a book nerd, their hands are always in book mode. You can do a lot with a standing gesture. It doesn't have to be a neutral pose. So boo to that. Boo to those character designs that have just one single standing basic gesture every single time, no matter the kind of character they're drawing. It's just horrible. You can do more. It's good for your portfolio. It's plus points to do more. Mage or archaeologist? No, that question was asked and I did answer it. So it is a mage and archaeologist. And I think most of the members of our Discord knew it was going to be a combination of both. But yeah, that's it for today, everyone. A pretty short class today, but I believe we covered a lot. I like to assign character designs, but I don't like to encourage masterpieces. So we have to find that sweet spot between 1 or 2 months of study assignments before we go back to another one like this. But you guys responded so well to this homework group this month. Not a lot of people joined. You guys usually join on the study. So next time I'd love to see you all attempt some of this. That's really, really important for your portfolio building. I want you guys at the end of your patronage, if ever, you have portfolio pieces. You have pieces that stem from a community that is encouraging you to get jobs, is encouraging you to use your skills practically, to apply your skills in the way you would in a studio or work setup. So it's really important you guys are getting the most out of this. If you fail, you failed. At least you tried. You got one major hurdle out of the way and you pushed your threshold forward. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you guys in the Discord. I hope you guys enjoy this month's rewards. Bye everyone.